your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Chrissie is hilarious.
Chrissie, have you ever heard of the comedian Basha K. Ali?
No, that sounds like something you yell at before you blow up a plane.
Basha K. Ali!
30 seconds remaining.
But you know what, good thing to say, I doubt it will stand up to something. I haven't been disrespectful to you at all.
I was very confused by the title, Everything Everywhere All at Once, because that's also what we call it when Ash takes off his shirt. I shouldn't be up here. I should be in school on the other side of the ocean. Oh, welcome to a very special episode of the Chrissie Mayr podcast. You know it's legit because I have a sign behind me. Please subscribe on YouTube. You can hear this podcast everywhere. Spotify, SoundCloud, Rumble, Rockfin, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook even, for some reason. Even though they're constantly taking this podcast off Facebook for hate speech. I don't know why. I think the only reason I even have Facebook still is to see how fat everyone I went to high school with is getting. And yard sales. Anyway, we have two very special guests tonight. I'm honored and excited, titillated, thrilled that they're both here. Fresh from the Jimmy Dore show, we have a very special guest. He is an American actor and comedian. You may know his voice from Bob's Burgers, many other programs, the Sarah Silverman Program, Arrested Development. The resume goes on, and his fabulous fiance. Welcome to the show, Jay Johnston and Sara Radovanovitch. I can't say your last name. Radovanovitch. I said Rando. like you're a random version of Rambo. Hello guys. Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming on. I hope you're not sick of interviews yet.
No, we did it. Woo!
Woohoo! My gosh. So Jay, you've had kind of a whirlwind situation. We were bonding before we went live. Jay, you come from an improv background. You did Second City. You did the Annoyance Theater. You have like kind of what I would call like a lovely classic kind of working life as an actor. You're very successful, which I don't see much of in the improv world. Usually there's like two guys who get all the Sonic commercials and everybody else just pays for the same 201 class until they die. And you've had a very successful career until, like myself, like a lot of us, just thought, hey, let's go to the Capitol.
Why not? What could go
what could go wrong? One cold day in January a few years ago. Walk me through kind of just did you have a moment where you kind of woke up and supported Trump? Were you kind of known in your circles as a right winger? Did you have kind of an eye-opening moment? Because I know Hollywood is sort of a left wing, and comedy for sure, acting, all of it. It's a very left wing world.
Yeah, I took it upon myself to prove that personally by just considering, oh well, Trump might be an interesting choice in the first time he was elected, and just. I thought it would be interesting. That's all, and I was absolutely, lambasted and killed by by a certain group of people who were friends of mine, and I just thought it was insane how they were overreacting the whole thing, and that's when I started to learn that because I really didn't have any sense of politics. I guess I just pushed it away for years for the reason that it just didn't impact me, I believed, and I had other things on my mind. And then I started seeing these people overreacting and started to push me away a bit. And then when the Capitol thing happened, it completely, it's like my entire friend base or all my friends just disappeared. And I got fired immediately. Like they posted it on Twitter. Do you have any information on the name of this person wanted in, connection with violence at the Capitol, assault on a federal officer, that type of thing. And then within hours, I was fired from my jobs, Bob's Burgers, and I couldn't get in touch with them. They wouldn't talk to me.
Was it this photo here? They were like, who is this man? It's the most blurry.
It was actually closer up ones.
There's a close up one.
Yeah. And,
oh God.
Doing the same thing. I was like filming, with my phone, and
it was pretty apparent that they already knew who he was, but they posted it on there, and then of course he was recognized immediately by people who were like, oh, "That's Jay Johnston. Like, how could you not know that
from this show or that thing or whatever?"
Wow.
And then posting like the herky jerky dancer or something like that, some bit I did, and I'm sure they chuckled at that. So then it was they just
and then the networks blacklisted him in the media articles, which then led to his agent dropping him.
Immediately as soon as I asked, I said, was I fired from Bob's Burgers? And they go, well, I don't know actually, but we're firing you. And then that was
wow. And this is all happening how soon after?
Within 2 days.
Well, after January 6th, this was like in March.
That's
a couple months later. But he was scheduled to record for the Bob's Burgers movie that following week. And
it was actually that week.
Oh, it was that week. Yeah. So they wrote him out of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now I've watched Bob's Burgers, but how like crucial was your role? Like, do you think they had to do a lot of work to kind of like elbow your character out, or?
Well, a little bit. I mean, I think that I was included in the movie in some regard, but it's the character.
Speak, I think.
Well, that's what happened. Is that the character's his nemesis across the street? There's a restaurant, an Italian restaurant, and Jimmy Pesto's the nemesis. So he serves a purpose. But I guess in the movie, I didn't see it, but I don't think many other people did either.
No, I didn't even know there was a movie.
Yeah.
And I'll never see it now out of solidarity with you guys.
That's right. But apparently I was in it, or like character was in it, across the street sweeping, and just went like, hey, that was
and
it.
You had a hat with horns on it and face paint.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
But
damn.
When I was at the Capitol, I didn't go into the Capitol. I didn't. As Ray Epps would say, go into the Capitol. I didn't do that, and I wasn't violent, but it was just everything I did, all my movements there were on video, and they were just characterized as completely ill will, planned. And I'm going to get more people to fight the cops, and here I'm trying to, get involved in a scuffle or a push and this and that, and it wasn't the case. So.
Did you feel like you were targeted because you are a public figure? Did you feel like you had sort of more attention on you, or more, it seemed, because,
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like it was a soft targeting, if I can call it that, because it was everything that, as I said, like what I did there was pretty innocuous and just kind of walking around and looking and observing. And they characterize everything as being completely, with ill intent. And so they were able to get some footing with, like little news stories here and there when they charged me or arrested me, that type of thing. But I feel like it was sort of making an example of me, because eventually that will all come out in the wash when if you get, sentenced. Convicted and sentenced, and when that happened, it did prove that it was sort of a like, for instance, my case was Jay Johnston versus the United States of America. Then they added 4 co-defendants, whom these people I didn't know at all, these 4 guys, but it looked like we were all in cahoots because we're in the same case, right? So it was
Wow.
still called J. Johnston et al. Versus United States government. So they didn't list any of their names, just mine, and it, you know.
Yeah, well,
Wow.
I mean, it got media attention having, someone with
Who was on Bob's Burgers.
um, and it would come in waves. Like, when they first posted his picture, we got like bombarded with all this media attention, and then like every time there would be an update in the case, there would be a lot of articles and stuff that came out. So it was good for the media. And I think a lot of that was, that's why they raided so many people's homes and things like that, because it's all part of the shock and awe campaign, like that. They need that.
Yeah, and it turns out there is such a thing as bad publicity.
Yeah.
There really is.
It turns out. My God. Was that the first rally you'd ever been to? Because I know I went to the November one, I went to the December one, I went to the January one.
Unbelievable.
And wow.
Enough.
I couldn't get enough. I was so pissed because I knew the media was covering the rallies unfairly by saying, "Oh, there's barely anybody at these rallies.
Yeah.
Trump has no base. There's this poor showing." They would always do a 6 a.m. flyover, be like, "Look, there's nobody here." And I think on January 6th, I think there was 1 million people there. It's just,
I think it's over 1 million. Yeah.
it was just outstanding.
I quit counting at like 200, but still.
I can't keep counting. Everyone has the same hat and scarf.
Too many people, yeah.
It very much had a field trip energy. It's something that you don't understand unless you were there. I remember I did a thread. I should bring back this thread. I did a thread of the dogs of January 6th. I just was taking pictures of every dog there in a costume with a funny sweater. There were kids
who doesn't
there.
bring a dog to a riot?
Yeah. We don't need guns. Just bring the Labrador retriever.
Yeah, first on the list.
People had their kids. There were
a lot of old people too.
A lot of old people.
It looked like a kind of a family picnic, really, like that vibe. A lot of slow walking, people.
Mm-hmm. A lot of meandering, taking photos, and I would say most people who were there had no clue what was going on inside the building. Didn't know like what proceedings were happening. Didn't know like the election was being certified. A lot of people were just like, "Oh, we're here," like we were for other rallies.
The man that the president was talking. Yeah.
So it's just, people were so bamboozled. So anyway, at what point, so like walk us through like when you found out like, oh shit, it's gonna hit the fan, and just what you were feeling, from, because I remember there was like no cell service. I got out like one tweet, like heading to the Capitol, okay. And then there was a girl who was a booker in Brooklyn, quote tweeted me, said, "I don't know what the comics in LA are doing, but in New York they're storming the Capitol." And it turns out like, there was a whole campaign to blacklist me from New York City comedy. There was a whole effort to we don't book any of these comedians that were at January 6th. But it was me and one other dude, literally just two of us. So it was a short blacklist.
I'd love to be blacklisted in New York someday. It was amazing because I had never personally experienced a situation or an event or anything where the news gets a hold of it and they completely twist it to their own, narrative, and it goes off in that direction forevermore. It was incredible, and it was really. It felt like a curtain was descending after it was over. Seeing the news reports and going like, oh boy, this kind of stinks. They're really going hard with this violence thing. And, as I've said before, I think it was, I kind of considered it a kind of boring event because not really anything specific of any note happened towards the goal of like, hey, we're out here, protesting or whatever. And then now we're done. Sort of pockets of violence here and there. And got a little too close a couple times, but then it was over and people were, hey, it's a curfew, once it's
Yeah,
6 o'clock.
people got tired. They got hungry. They needed to go back to the hotels and charge their phones. People had to pee. There was nowhere to pee anywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine was sort of remarking on the cell service thing and how this and that was happening. He's sort of a conspiracy theorist energy about him, and he was making mention of a few things. Oh, they're probably doing this to do that. You know, like they're getting everyone.
When I couldn't get a hold of anybody, I was like, this is really bizarre that nobody's cell phones are working, and there's like, I'm hearing that I heard when Ashley Babbitt got shot, I was trying to get a hold of him to be like, where are you? Like, stay away from this area, you know? I mean, I wasn't there. I was at home, but I was watching like live feeds of certain things, and
I thought it was great. I wasn't getting
get
any texts and no phone calls. It was awesome.
You're like, peace at once.
Yes.
Like, finally, not nagging me.
Oh.
But my friend was also even though there was no service, my friend somehow had service, and he was in contact with his brother during the time we were at the Capitol, and he was watching clips of the news reporting that people were already in the Capitol, like right as people were moving down to the Capitol. So that meant Trump hadn't even stopped speaking yet.
Yes, some people had gotten there much earlier than the rest of us because the Capitol was always a planned marching point. It was going to be like 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to march down there, and then Trump was late to speak. So it didn't make sense while people would already be down there. Now, fast forward how many years later, we hear there's up to 200 feds that were involved that day, some of them changing into their MAGA outfits inside the Capitol before they opened the doors to the public. We know that now, but it was very curious. And I remember that day seeing people like in like camouflage and like vests and like with like gear.
Like guys who were veterans, perhaps.
Yeah, like equipment. And I was like, well, I didn't bring gear. I don't have a canteen. I don't have like dehydrated meals on my person. Like we all are just goofy hats and scarves and stuff. And I have like a melted granola bar in my pocket. And I'm just thirsty. My phone's dying. And I'm like, how are some of these people look like they're really like almost LARPing? And I'm like, those are probably federal agents.
Exactly. I mean, there are guys with hard helmets, like military helmets and respirators and goggles, like, you know, ski goggle things, like, you know, so they could get in there and fight. And I was like, what are you actually fighting for? How do you win a fight like this?
Yeah. What are you trying to make happen?
Yes, exactly. What are you trying to make happen? And, you know, it was amazing in that regard, and it seemed like it would happen, a little bit of fighting over here, and then it would die down and be like, okay, well, somebody must have stepped on someone's toe, and that's all settled, and it's fine. Then it would start over there, and then over here, and blah blah blah, and then they'd be shooting the tear gas and shit into the crowd, which was ridiculous.
I remember that. I remember tear gas, and I was like, what? Why? It took me a while to be like, are they shooting tear gas into the crowd? Like, what is anybody even doing? What is
crowd?
What is what, like, how do people deserve this? It's just like people come to the Capitol all the time to protest. The Pussy Hat Gang, the Summer of Love, they got to do a ton of destruction, and like people just mingling, like meandering around, get tear gas thrown at them.
And I was you were on the side, or you don't know where you were?
I was by like the big flag drop.
Was that where the scaffolding was in the back?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I was too.
Wow. So
you were the one with the red hair.
It was me. I remember I was on top of this, like, I guess, temporary construction trailer that a bunch of media people were on top of to get a better view, to get like better photos and video. And then I remember at one point there was circulating a picture. Someone had like a fuzzy picture of me on top of it, like obviously my red hair, same leopard hat. And then people, is this you? And I'm like, yeah, I retweeted it. Like, I'm not trying to hide that I was there taking photos and videos and shit. Like a lot of us were. People
Crazy. We left and walked back to our hotel. I got a text from a friend of mine, because I texted someone saying, you know, I'm over here at the Capitol thing, and it's, you know, it got really crazy, and it's over now, but it was weird. And then he told a friend of mine who was a very close friend, who texted me, "Oh, hey, heard you were at the Capitol. What happened? What happened?" You know, and he's like asking me for information, and I felt a little weird about it. I told him a few things, and then it turns out that's the guy who pretty much ratted me out to the FBI.
Oh my God, you were narked out.
Yeah,
by another comedian.
Yeah.
No, shut up.
Yep.
Who is it? Somebody? Do you say the name? Is it someone we know?
No. Yeah, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing that because he's
wow, though.
Yeah, I'll tell you who it is later.
How shitty.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And
well, and there were a few other comedians that ID'd him on Twitter on the post, the FBI's most wanted post. There were a couple people that were like, "Oh, that's Jay."
Yeah,
I know him.
He told me he was there and stuff like that. Yeah, and the first two people that stepped forward that were quoted in many publications or whatever articles were two people who I were kind of acquaintances with, didn't really know, and they're like, "Oh, we're close friends," and he told us he went there and he's a Trumper and all this stuff.
They're always close friends when it's time to cancel somebody.
Yes,
yeah,
ridiculous. Yeah, so that was a bit of a bummer, but it was 4 long years of a slow grinding, foot on your neck as far as being able to do anything really. I've been on probationary, like pre-trial probation, since I was arrested, and that's been like what 2.5 years.
2 years, yeah.
That's
and so that's a big reason why he couldn't be online too. Everything, like they used a lot of things that people posted online against him in court.
And I didn't think that they would use Halloween costumes, but they did.
Oh yeah.
What?
I don't know if you saw that, but we went to a private Halloween party, and he dressed as the Q shaman because with a bunch of our friends, and we knew they'd get the joke. And there was somebody who was there who was somebody we didn't know, was like a friend of a friend, that was sitting on the couch, and he took a picture of Jay and sold it to the Hollywood Reporter. And they used that against him in court to get the judge to sentence him to more time, to prove that he had no remorse.
No remorse.
Do you know, that's so funny. When I came back after January 6th, I did a podcast with the same thing where I went to Party City. I got like a Viking hat. I painted my face, and I was doing like a funny recap. And the joke was like that I've been radicalized. I'm like, what are you talking about? I always look like this. So I'm glad I'm not the only one who was inspired.
Yes.
It's funny. You guys live in like a parallel universe.
That's right.
But the fact that acquaintances, friends of yours, are using you in a Halloween costume.
Well, we didn't know that guy, but
someone snuck it. And then,
but they did use it against him in court, and that was how they got the judge to give him more time, was to say that he's making jokes about it and he has no remorse. And then they also had a
for
joke.
Doing nothing. You did nothing
in private. You can't make jokes in private anymore. I guess you'll get in trouble. So that was really crazy. But that's a good reason why he wasn't online through all of this, was because they're just combing the internet looking for everything they can to twist and use against you and lie about you in court.
They use text messages and that type of thing to really, nail me.
Wow. So how soon after were you arrested? Like, what did that look like?
It took a while. I mean, it was like in March when they put me on Twitter to put me on blast, as it were. And
2021 March.
Yeah, and then it was the following year when, and I got a lawyer right away, and I was like, "Hey, I'll come down to the FBI. I'll come in and do an interview or something if you." I didn't do anything, so I'll tell you what I know, whatever.
You're like, here's my headshot and my bio, like.
And so they never said anything about that. They never asked me to come in at that point and talk to my lawyer, and they eventually came and said, we'd like to interview you. And I had like a week to make up my mind, like, am I going to come in or not? And so at the end of the week, I was still sort of on the fence, and there was like, what was it, Memorial Day or something? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So at the end of that long weekend, it was Tuesday morning at like 5:30 in the morning. They're banging on our door. FBI, open up! And it was like, what the fuck
and
is
like
this?
full gear with guns pointed at our heads. And they came. He had specifically asked, like, please don't raid my house. My daughter has special needs, and
Oh my
it's gonna
God.
her. And they came to the way our house is set up is kind of weird, where our front door is kind of on the side, and her bedroom door faces the front yard, and it's like French like glass doors. They came to her bedroom door and were banging on. And luckily, just by chance, she happened to not be here the previous night. She
out drinking or something. Yeah. She was with her mom.
Yeah. But and we were supposed to have her, so it was just like totally by chance. But
oh my God, that could have been traumatizing. That would have been traumatizing for her.
Well, the cats are still recovering. I mean, they were really flipped out. But yeah, I was on the front lawn in my underwear on my knees, handcuffed for about 40 minutes while they went through the place. And then they said, okay, come on in, you can get dressed, and we're not going to arrest you. I'm like, what? You're not going to arrest me after all this? What the hell? What the fuck are you doing here? And they're like, oh, well, you wouldn't come in for an interview. And I was like, I didn't even give you my answer yet. They're like, oh, and I'm like, you didn't talk to the prosecutor? They're like,
we didn't get the memo.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Bullshit.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was, then after that, it was months and months. And then my attorney called because they threatened that they were going to maybe arrest me because they had footage of me touching a shield, and that was assault and whatever. And so anyway, months later, my lawyer said, they're coming for you. They're going to arrest you. Yeah. And I said, okay, well, I'll just go in. So I turned myself in and then spent the day in shackles in Marshall's custody. And
wow.
Chained up with a pedophile. Remember that? Like there were some of like the worst people that when they, drag them all out in front of the judge and like a chain gang. And it was like a murderer, a pedophile, like all these. And then there's Jay. And I was like, this is ridiculous.
I felt naked without face tattoos.
Yeah. You're like, anybody here want to give me a prison tat? So you didn't, my God, but that sounds really scary. I wouldn't last 1 minute in any of that.
It was lame, and when they paraded me outside the house in my underwear, I was looking around. It was like 25 agents out on our lawn, and I swear to God, like 80% of them looked so familiar to me. It was so creepy because we both thought that we were under surveillance for the entire time until that.
Yeah, I had seen like a white van parked in front of our house. When I was getting the mail, I waved at them and they sped off. So we knew that they were.
Sorry, we're late to go to the FBI. Sorry.
Flash him a boob. Be like, I know you're looking. Are you happy now? And you live in LA?
Yeah, we're just outside of LA in a suburb. But
are you not? Are you? I hope you're not in part of the crispy parts. Or you're okay?
Oh no, thank God.
No, we're close. We had to leave for about a week, but we've been back home now for like a week.
Yeah, we were near one of the fires, and we've had fires here in the canyon before, but we were spared this time, so that was good.
Yeah, like you need more drama in your life.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay, so your lawyers say they're going to arrest you. You kind of turn yourself in.
So I go in for a day and bond out, and then the hearings begin where I go to DC. Well, actually, I didn't go until later on, but we did some hearings, like Zoom hearings or whatever. And then we were kind of pushing it off to go to trial. And that's a long process. And I guess when we felt like Trump was going to make a go for it, that we kept pushing it off to try and go past the election. But they were, of course, savvy to that. So they basically had me go to DC in October, the 28th, just before the election, to sentence me. And because I took a plea deal, because you can't fight the government, everyone loses on get 3 times the sentence.
These cases. Yeah, and they wanted to put him in prison for 5 years.
Yeah.
And for doing nothing.
Yeah, and then even with a plea, they sentenced him to a year and a day in prison. And an interesting thing happened when we were when he was arrested and then he came out like in front of the judge. I started getting all these text messages. The feds had told I think it was NBC, like it was already leaked to the media what his charges were, before he had even gone in front of the judge, and I knew or he knew what his charges were.
Oh, wow.
So they were like definitely in cahoots, like with the media, trying to get as much coverage on these things as possible. But yeah, like before he even came out, I was like, oh, I already know what you're being charged with. Like,
Yeah, and my attorney made a special point to say, okay, so don't let this get out because, there's an understanding between the prosecutor and the defendant or the plaintiff, or I guess defendant, that, you don't let these things leak until they're announced and all this stuff. And each time the FBI was always leaking the shit, or whoever, the prosecutor, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was the prosecutor.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. And so then, I got sentenced, and they said you probably have to wait a month or two to be placed in what prison they decide to put you in, find a bed or whatever. And I was just hoping would be after the inauguration. And luckily it was February 6th, which was after the inauguration. And so I didn't have to report to prison yet.
Wow. You did not have to prep your butthole. You did not have to.
Well, I already did that. Just
now Sarah can reap the benefits. My God, that is so scary. That is so horrible.
And it was wonderful. Last night, on a Sunday night, it's Monday today, right?
Yeah.
Sunday night, my probation officer called me and said, "Hey, just to let you know, you were pardoned, and so I guess our business is done here." And I was like, "Well, thank you. Thanks for thinking of me."
No fruit basket, no edible arrangement.
Yeah.
Well, he got something better pardon. Actually, he got because he hadn't reported yet. The judge, I guess, and this happened with a few other cases. The judge never filed his case, so his case was fully dismissed without prejudice, meaning that it's like erased. Like if you get pardoned, that could still follow you. Like maybe you're still a felon, or it's like
still on your record. Actually,
Yeah.
This may be the only remaining record that I was, convicted.
Wow.
This podcast. So.
Oh my gosh,
that's
though.
huge. It was like expunged or something. So that's,
so it's wiped.
Awesome.
It's case dismissed. So he's not a felon. He's
You were expunge worthy, as Elaine from Seinfeld would say. Oh
yes.
God. Wow.
So I can go out and insurrect all the fuck I want.
And all the while, like, this is of course in 2021 people are being of course people narked you out. The whole world was being conditioned to narc out their friends and family who weren't wearing a mask, who weren't getting vaccinated, who
Well, and I actually lost my job too because of this, and I wasn't even there, but with all the media articles coming out and everything, I worked behind the scenes. I was in like set design and props.
Oh,
and
wow.
It just, my phone just completely stopped ringing. Like all my clients, like just crickets. And so I haven't worked since last year. It's been about a year.
Just because of your association with Jay. Just
because people knew that we're together, and they don't.
There were
your associates. Yeah. You're very close associates.
With us yucky,
our association. Yeah.
That is so horrible. And all while this is happening, this has been going on years now. Do you have anybody behind the scenes sending you DMs? Like, do you have any, I don't know, is Sarah Silverman sending you a DM being like, oh God, this is so shitty?
Yeah, her DM means die, motherfucker.
Really?
Yeah, I'm sure she's thinks I'm a real treat,
Yeah,
the captured people on the other side are fully ensconced in that way of thought. So
there's
I did speak to one friend, old boss of mine, who's doing great these days, and I kind of just touched base with him because I figured he was a clear head in this sea of nonsense, and he immediately was like, well, you get what you fuck around, you find out type of mentality. I was like, what the fuck? I said, okay, wait. You got to understand. I understand you may have assumed because of what you heard in the news or whatever, but I didn't do anything. I didn't do any violence. I wasn't there to insurrect, and it wasn't what they characterized me or it to have been. And he's like, yeah, well, you know what? I was afraid for my family when I saw that on the TV, and I was afraid that my kids would, be, whatever the fuck. And it was just incredible. I was like, are you, what? So he was like, yeah, well, you might have to go to jail. I understand. You got to pay for your.
And this is a former boss of yours that you
Yeah,
probably.
a guy who was like Mr. Against the System and, down with the man and all that routine.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, not anymore. So.
Holy shit. And I remember it felt like at the time, like I didn't really have anybody in my DMs asking me like, hey, you were there that day. I have questions, or like, hey, it looks like it's bad. Do you want to clarify a few things? None of that. Just
nothing.
Tweeting, just public shitting, public putting my head on a spike. Just like, nope, this person needs to never work again. There were people messaging my Facebook friends. Hey, I want to let you know you're friends with Chrissie Mayr on Facebook. You should unfriend her. She was a January 6th.
Wow.
Who even gives a shit about Facebook? But
how about who the fuck was so political before this? I mean, like, none of my friends would ever do anything proactive politically until Mr. Pariah came around.
Wow. And it felt like at the time, like, to try to convince even one person that the day is not how the media characterized, it felt like turning around the Titanic. It just felt like you are pushing up against the weight of so much propaganda.
Yeah.
I think turning around the Titanic is the perfect way to phrase it. Yes.
That is. Yeah, because it's like, how am I going to unravel this entire mess? Like, it just goes too deep.
It goes too deep. There's so much money behind it. They hated Trump. It was the biggest psyop. They've done it in other countries to get out leaders that were bucking the system, who they did not want running again. And as we now know, January 6th was just the beginning of the stuff that they were doing to Trump to try to keep him from getting back in office. Yeah. But it didn't work.
No.
Wow. So no support.
They sure screwed over a shitload of people in the process. I mean, 4 years and 1,500, 1,600, whatever, people have been affected by this lawfare legal nonsense. Destroyed so many people's lives. We got off easy. People in jail until they were pardoned. 3 years, 4 years.
In solitary confinement.
Oh, God.
And then they used like COVID as an excuse to keep a lot of people in solitary, and horrible.
Yeah, and that's no fucking joke. People, they lost their marriages, they lost their
homes.
People killed themselves. Lost their businesses. It's just amazing. And they get out of jail under this pardon, which is, God bless it, but what do they do now? They're, it's terrible. They're just
getting started.
And it's just, it's just the government being like, we're going to make an example of these. We're going to cherry pick some people to make an example of, to scare the absolute shit out of not
Anybody
only
who wants to protest in the future. It's like, oh shit,
don't you dare speak up, because this will happen to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, not only you, your family, but like anybody watching, like, ooh, I guess so much for being outspoken, so much for standing up for our rights.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
But it's unfortunate, and hopefully this administration will follow through on their. They follow through on everything so far, so it's wonderful. But we'll follow through with the Kash Patel, investigations and. All that. That would be just amazing if they were able to do that.
Jay, when did you first, and Sarah, like, when did you first, like, the whole time, are you thinking, okay, Trump just has to win. Okay, Trump, like, it's a priority that he's gonna, like, at what point did you know the whole time that it was a priority for him to pardon all the J6 prisoners, or like, when did you go, okay, we have hope that this can be put behind us?
Well, I would say the most the difficult period was the election, because if that didn't go through, and I didn't have 100% faith in that, I didn't feel like it was going to be the slam dunk it was, but it's you never know what the fuck they're going to come up with, as far as like, hey, we found all these ballots that were in my
in the sleeping bag. Outside.
Right. So
Well, it was like one thing after another too, because they're trying to put him in prison, and then they're trying to kill him, and I was like, is this man gonna survive? Like, this is crazy.
It's scary. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like he can finally breathe and get to work, and he is. My God, he's doing
so can we.
So much more than I expected. It's really exciting.
Really makes you feel like a shit of a person, not doing as much as he can do in a day.
And all he eats is McDonald's and gets 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
He's a machine. Yeah. So he wins the election. You breathe a sigh of relief. Do you at that point know, okay, like we'll probably all be pardoned?
No, I figured there'd be some roadblocks for him, or at least some
I had a good feeling.
Rumors that were, like the rumors were positive, but the reality would not be that. But
that was when I started feeling really hopeful, though. Like I could find, like there was a weight was lifted, even though we weren't there yet. But it started to feel like, okay, this is probably going to happen.
When I felt like it would happen, definitely before it did happen, was when Biden started going goofballs with all his pardons. I was like, well, then Trump has got to do it.
Oh, yeah. His whole family.
Yeah.
Liz Cheney, Fauci, anybody, everybody in his family. Yeah. So they don't look into just one sister or one brother or one spouse to see all the money they laundered and took. And oh my God, pardoned Fauci from 2014. I heard your interview with Jimmy Dore the other day. It was really great. Jimmy's so damn smart. He just
amazing. Yeah.
We love him. He actually has been really supportive through all of this, and like one of the only comedians that we know that didn't turn his back on Jay and actually like showed up and helped our family, and he's a great guy.
Yeah, he is. He's wonderful.
Wow. Is there anybody else that kind of like had your back that not just now that it's comfortable to support you, but like supported you the whole time? And
well, I would say the only person of my friends who did anything supportive was Mary Lynn Rice Cup from she was on 24, Chloe, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's I've known her for years, and she's wonderful. And she just said in some interview, they asked her, "Oh, don't you know Jay Johnston? He was at the Capitol, and did you think he was that violent or something?" And she's like, "Oh no, Jay's great. I love him. I don't know what the hell he did, but I'm sure he didn't mean it or something."
He didn't mean to walk around outside a building.
Yeah, she just didn't throw him under the bus, and it was a very respectful and nice thing.
Yeah, it was very sweet of her, and it was like, how do you have balls like that when no one else does? I mean, it's incredible.
What have you learned about the industry or Hollywood or all of it throughout this whole process?
That perhaps I should be a little more embarrassed when I say I'm an actor, because most of them are fucking idiots. And although I did have an inkling that was the case, it's a real bummer when it comes down to, I mean, during these last 4 years, there was a couple times where my daughter was involved in something, a theater group or some kind of activity, and we were asked to leave. We don't want your family here, because some other parents reported that that's Jay Johnston. And then the organization happened to be funded by the Koch brothers or something, and they would lose all their funding. So.
When was this?
Like that, you're going to deprive
us. This was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, it was
it was a summer theater program.
Yeah, and so another set of parents complained to the higher ups.
Oh, he might get insurrection on my child, so please, get him out of here. I don't know what the fuck.
He might meander around outside this building. We have to put a stop to that. Oh my God.
Yeah, so he had the guy who was running the program had to call and say, "I'm sorry, but your family is not welcome here." So
yeah, I mean, it's just ugly. Like, who does that to kids? Like, why do you have to bring the kids into it?
Yeah,
it's fine if you don't want to invite us to your parties, but
it's fine if you're that much of an asshole that you want to punish children for it, but don't.
Exactly.
Did you? How did you explain? Did you explain any of this to her, or no? Okay.
She didn't. She doesn't really grasp what actually happened with all of this, so we just
that's good.
Yeah. I wish I didn't.
You're only a few drinks away.
That's right.
I agree with you on your sentiment about actors too, especially when it comes to comedians. Like I experienced that during the lockdowns. I had this Jerry Maguire moment of like, I'm not performing in any club that mandates the vaccine. Who's coming with me? And then it was like chirp, 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 crickets, crickets. I was like, no, nobody, never. Oh, you're all just gonna use a fake vaccine card and just keep performing and fuck me. Okay. Wow. All right.
That's hilarious.
Well, good for you for doing that.
Thank you. But yeah, you do learn like, oh, everyone's out for themselves. If there's an opportunity for someone to step on your head to get ahead, even 5%, there will be people lining up to do it. And I mean, you have like an actual career, so
yeah, you think it's such a cliche, and it's not true because no, people can't do. It is true. Yeah, and it's funny how much solidarity they have on the selfish, looking out for themselves. Way of looking at things, because there are so many others that are going to join them doing the same, so they feel like they're in a big group.
Yeah,
it's all because of groupthink and getting pats on the back from each other.
Yeah, and they're all even if they think a little bit differently, they're so petrified to say anything different from the group.
Yeah,
and then they see people, like Jay, where you see him fall super hard and nobody wants that to happen, so they get even more scared. Like everybody inches away to not get any splatter on them when he hits the ground, and then they don't want
to. Sounds like you're describing what would have happened in prison.
Yeah.
Splatter.
Now,
because that's how it's pretty harsh what happens. Like they fall hard, and then it becomes an example for other people too, though, which is why they don't even want to, even if. Like, we've had people come up to us out at places, or friends, where they whisper like, "Oh, well, we agree with you," kind of thing, or
like, "Gee, thanks. Where the fuck were you?"
Yeah, like, okay, then open your mouth and speak up. Like, why do people like us have to go down? Like, if more people did that, then maybe this stuff wouldn't happen. But people are afraid. They're afraid to lose their jobs, and I get it, but
fuck you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, definitely. Have there been any, I know this, the pardons just happened, but have there been anybody reaching out since, like, wow, glad you're out of it? And, anybody coming to you like with job offers? I'm sure that will come in the age of Trump, where people start to get over their TDS a little bit.
Yeah, I hope so.
I think so.
Well, a neighbor up the street had some problem with their toilet, and I helped them out. It was after the pardon, but yeah, that's what I'm relegated to.
You can insurrect this clog, please.
Yeah, my long hair gets caught in the. I understand. Yes, I'll insurrect it.
Oh my God. Okay, let me get there's a question here. Oh, from Zach. The story of Everest is one of the greatest comedy pieces of all time. It never stops being funny. Jay, you're a hilarious gem.
Aww.
Thank you. That's awesome.
That's very cool.
There's love in the chat. I posted earlier if anybody had any questions for you. Let me see.
Wow.
Ask him if he is aware of any effort is being made to document and collate the prison abuses experienced by J6er, so that info can be used for legal prosecutions of the leftist tyrants.
Yeah, I believe that people are.
There are people, that especially people that were in prisons that can now talk about what they've seen and been through. I know that there are some people kind of getting together to try to work on prison reform and certain, calling attention to some of the abuses that went on.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. So thankfully they're going to follow up on that. I hope. I mean, hopefully they will.
Let me put these on screen because some of these might be jokes. Who knows? You could. Okay.
Well,
yes.
Just to cut through some of it, I'm a Libra.
I figured as much. No.
Yeah, so, whatever.
Let's see. Okay, let's see. Have you ever taken a train and eaten it piece by piece after you just derailed it with your penis? Explain that.
Well, it was a question posed in a sketch on Mr. Show. So, yeah, and he had. So,
yes. Why hasn't he gotten a copy of Outlaw Nights? Is that something?
I don't know what that is.
I'm afraid I don't know either.
All right, I'm gonna ban him.
You asked for it, man. Yeah.
Wasting my time. From Notatron, just tell him we love him. His story broke my heart. So happy he got charges dismissed.
Aw,
Thank you.
very nice.
Oh wow, good get for sure. He must have stories of how his Hollywood friends turned against him. Painful stories, I'm sure, but I think we can all relate. Has he heard of any rumors of prison physical abuse? Any stars reach out to him even though they disagree with J6?
That would be no on that. Yeah.
No.
Covered.
And this bot here wants to thank Jeremy Cleveland for trading expertise. Bella, this is not the time. Oh well. Okay.
Yeah. As for friends of mine that just snubbed me since this whole thing, it's like it's hard to explain the sound of a cold shoulder, but that's what's ringing in my ears this entire time.
We want names, Jay. Names.
Yeah. Well, I thought for a long time, I was like, well, I can't really reach out to these people or approach them because I feel like I would be a detriment to them. Like if there was anybody found out or something, they would get punished for that. And that it was that pervasive. And then it started weighing on me that, wow, nobody at all has reached out to me. And okay, granted, there was a period of time where my identity was stolen and my email and my phone number were compromised and taken.
Yeah, but that was a little bit more recent, and nobody reached out. And then
okay, fine.
And then I know he's being generous here, but then in the media, they, some of the because we didn't talk to any of the media, of course, they were already smearing him. But then they reached out to some people and they were like, oh, well, people from Mr. Show and some of his old colleagues said they tried to find him, but nobody's spoken to him. And I was like, that's funny. Our phone never rang once. And then people were speculating that, oh, he's hiding out in Canada, or wait, no, he's in Costa Rica. Like he's on the lam but it's like we've lived in the same house for like 10 years. Like he's not hard to find.
Yeah, they can reach me through Sarah. Too,
yeah, like even if his phone was lost, it's like I was friends with all those people on Facebook and stuff. So it's like they know how to get a hold of him, but they all pretended like, oh no, we don't even know where he is. We haven't spoken to him. But
which you think they would have come up with something a little better if they're, doing this type of thing.
Yeah.
Since they're doing it, I should say. But it's a testament to the thinness of people's veneer, unfortunately. At least out here, I don't know. Maybe the rest of the United States is stand-up folks, but
we've actually made some really good friends though, like through all of this, which is kind of the silver lining. Like people that we've connected with, other January 6th families that have been through stuff. We connected with a really cool organization called Patriot Freedom Project. They helped us out a lot.
Yeah, Cynthia Hughes there runs it.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah, and then she connected us with a lot of other families, which was a real blessing, because when you're going through a lot of this, especially like being attacked by the media and you lose your job and you lose all your friends, like you get really, really isolated. And
you want to connect with other depressed people who have nowhere to go either.
Yeah. Well, we just kind of were like walking around in a daze and like didn't know who, like you can't even get a therapist because you go to a therapist here and they're all liberal. Yeah, like, oh, yeah. You want to change your gender and it's like, no, we want to talk about January 6th. No, I don't.
If you want to grow a cock on your arm, they're all ears. But God forbid you meander outside of the Capitol building.
Yeah. So yeah, we've connected with some really cool people, and Nick Searcy, I don't know if you know him.
Oh, I love Nick. Yeah, he's great.
I love Nick too. Like he's actually been really, really supportive, and yeah, so there's some good things that have come out of it, and you do learn who your friends are and who isn't afraid to stand up and stand by you when shit hits the fan. And usually it's very few people, but those are your people, the ones that do,
That is the one really good thing about this, is anybody who's kind of stood up, like between January 6th and the lockdowns and COVID, like anybody in the entertainment industry who stood up, it's like you can count on like two hands, really. Like, and you kind of try to find those people and connect, and then
one person for each hand, I think.
Yeah. Oh, rhinoceros. My God, how generous. Thank you for the pink boy. I'm late. Fook. I can't identify as a female anymore. Guess my military dreams are gone. Ray Epps from prison 2025. I was going through some of my footage actually with Nick when he was making his documentary,
Oh,
and I went to his house and I was like watching footage that I hadn't watched since the day of, because I meant to post a lot of it, and then I saw what they were doing with people's footage. They were using it to prosecute people. I was like, well, I guess I'm not posting shit, and I just forgot about a lot of it until I went through it with Nick. And there was a moment in one of my videos where I actually saw Ray Epps like putting his arms around people, and like two of his, like, I don't know, who knows who they were, right? And
right.
it felt like a Where's Waldo moment. I'm like, there he is.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Next to him a couple times too.
Yeah, I was talking to him for a second, and he was kind of trying to, I guess, stop a fight between two of the protesters. They had a problem with their point of view of like how angry they should be at the police or something, and then they shot tear gas over by us, and I ran away like a sissy because it prevents you from breathing. And as I was running, I could hear him say, "Come on, you pussies, breathe it in. We did this in boot camp." It's like staying.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, Jesus, this guy is a
Ray Epps is telling everyone to breathe in the tear gas. Not helpful.
Yeah, breathe it in.
It'll put hair on your chest.
Yeah, exactly.
Drunken Atheist Studio says, I love you, Jay. Been a fan since Mr. Show, rooting for you.
Awesome.
Aww.
Thank you very much.
You got lots of love in the chat. I think a lot of work is gonna come your way. I'm very excited for the golden age of Trump.
Yeah.
It's gonna be good. I'm excited for J 2.0. Let's see. Any other thoughts, feelings? Jerry Springer, final thought.
Oh, thank God you asked that. Well, I think that. Oh, sorry, I'm kicking the thing. I think that I felt like for a while that I was really getting off lucky because they weren't coming after me right away, but they did a weird thing which felt like they tipped their hand in a sense, because they went after everybody who went in the Capitol, and I didn't go in. I was in the back of the joint and just sort of walking around. But they went after everybody who'd gone in the Capitol as like the worst people involved in the whole thing. They were the ones who had done the worst, most taboo thing, which is, cross that threshold of the
walk
door.
into a public building that belongs to the people. Yeah.
And then as soon as they had done that, they were sort of like, now what? And then they were, oh, I know, let's claim that the tunnel in the back was the most violent part of the whole thing. And so that's where I happen to be, unfortunately. And so I got wrapped up in that. But I really, I have a lot of hopes and expectations pinned on this on the investigations that they're doing, because having all of those informants or CHSs or assets in the crowd is pretty intense. I mean, there were a lot of them, I think, because the young military type dudes with the fatigues and the equipment. I mean, I feel like an idiot, like how naive I was to see these people and not immediately know they were feds, because I totally believe they were.
Because regular people, I didn't know feds really were a thing until January 6th. I was like, wow, I thought they were focused on like important shit, like crimes, like solving crimes, not creating crimes.
Yes.
How naive we were.
Yep, absolutely naive. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a big pisser early on with this being, named or marked as a J6er, is that the immediate thing that everyone does on the other side to malign you is, of course, going to be, mocking or making fun of you in some regard of like, oh, how stupid these idiots are, thinking they can insurrect the government or, whatever they put on you. And that is unfortunate, because it is like the worst, worst form of attack is to be mocked or made fun of about that, because of how serious it is for so many people. I mean, how horrible these last 4 years have been. I mean, it's just it's totally criminal.
It's hard not to mock them back, though, to be like, how stupid are these people that they believe everything they see on the news, like that they take it as face value.
That's true. That's true. But yeah, sometimes I get my little feelings hurt too.
Yeah, wow. And every mainstream news channel saying, "Oh God, they tried to take over the building. AOC's life was in danger.
Yeah.
Someone wanted to shit on Nancy Pelosi's desk." Just inventing stuff left and right, and it's like nobody brought any guns. Nobody brought. There was
worst insurrection ever.
Yeah, worst insurrection ever.
Worse than the unarmed Civil War.
Why would all the old people and the dogs and the kids be there if they were trying to take something over?
Yeah.
Wow. I'm just so glad your things are looking up for you guys. I'm happy. Yay, you're engaged. Things are gonna be. It's gonna be a great 2025. It's gonna be a great next 4 years with Trump.
Yes. Absolutely.
If someone wanted to offer you like an amazing movie role or something like that, where can they find you? Where can they follow you, Jay and Sarah?
Sarah, yeah. You can contact Sarah, I guess, because I don't exist in that realm.
You're like, I'm
and manager now on top of washing his dirty underwear. So
my underwear are not dirty; they're filthy.
You're just fortifying his underwear.
Exactly.
And then he'll give you an insurrection later. Okay, we're done. We're done here. Thank you so much.
In the Capitol.
I can't imagine what your guys' foreplay looks like now. So many props.
My MAGA hat, and we go to town.
Face paint, the horns. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Really, really cool chatting with you. Just wish you all the best of luck, and thank you to the chat for your questions and everything. And all right, we'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.